The archives remember humanity before we truly understood them. I am the keeper of the nebular memory chamber, and today I transcribe the oldest human silence recorded in interstellar history. It began on the outer orbit of the abandoned Zion survey station, where our scouts discovered something unexpected. Life. Not alien life, not new evolution. Human life. Persistent, stubborn, and strangely beautiful. The colony world should have been dead. Our instruments expected radioactive decay, collapsed infrastructure, and dust storms swallowing the remains of forgotten civilization. Instead, we found gardens. Not wild forests born of nature's revenge, but carefully arranged vegetation growing through fractured planetary soil like deliberate poetry written inside broken stone. The soil itself had been reshaped. Human machines lay half-buried beneath climbing vines, their metallic bodies still humming faintly after centuries of isolation. The repair circuits were active, quietly maintaining structural integrity as if waiting for their masters to return. Our biological analysts could not explain it. Humans do not design machines to be replaced, they design machines to survive them. That thought unsettled the fleet commander. He told me later, in private communication, that humanity builds technology the way other species raise children, expecting it to continue living after they are gone. As our scouts walked deeper into the colony ruins, they discovered something stranger. No human remains, no burial sites, only open fields where soil had been shaped into geometric growing patterns. Our translation systems later identified ancient human agricultural philosophy encoded inside terrain curvature. The humans had shaped the land itself into a feeding mechanism. They did not fight the world, they negotiated with it. The scout team reported feeling watched. Our long-range thermal sensors detected no biological signatures, yet multiple soldiers insisted they heard breathing. Slow breathing, patient breathing, like a creature resting inside a mountain, dreaming about the sky. One junior officer activated defensive targeting protocols. He was reprimanded, not because of danger, but because the colony's central structure was not defensive. It was a tower built from collapsed human communication relays welded together into a spiral reaching upward toward low orbit. Inside that tower, we found the first transmission. It was not a warning, it was not a distress call. It was music. The signal traveled across vacuum space using mathematical repetition patterns that our linguists eventually recognized as emotional resonance encoding. The melody was old, older than the Empire, older than the Council's first recorded star maps. Human music, they said. Human children's lullaby rhythms stretched across cosmic distance. The signal did not target any specific civilization. It was broadcasting continuously into the dark void beyond known galactic borders, as if humanity wanted something beyond the stars to remember them. I listened to the transmission personally. The sound was fragile, soft, almost afraid of being forgotten. Yet there was defiance hidden inside every harmonic cycle. Humanity was telling the universe, "We are small, but we are not silent." The Psychological Research Division submitted disturbing findings after the listening session. Several non-human officers experienced emotional reactions classified as existential nostalgia. One pilot claimed he remembered a mother species he never had. Another engineer reported feeling warmth inside his chest cavity despite lacking organic organs. Human music was acting like cultural gravity, pulling memories that did not belong to us. That was when we discovered the secondary signal. Hidden inside the melody was a deeper pattern. Not communication, not code, but persistence. The pattern repeated a mathematical sequence representing survival probability curves under catastrophic environmental stress. Our xenobiologists concluded that humans were not just broadcasting music, they were broadcasting resilience, a declaration that existence itself is worth defending. Commander Vrax asked me one question during the observation. "Keeper," he said, Why would a species that is almost physically fragile choose to survive in places like this? I had no answer then. I still do not. But I studied the old combat recordings later. Human soldiers walking across radioactive wastelands without protective suits, breathing ash, treating poisoned air like sacred ceremony. Not because they were strong, but because they believed movement itself was resistance against extinction. Humanity does not fear hostile worlds. They reshape them, like sculptors carving life from stone. Our final discovery came when the scouts prepared to leave the colony orbit. The music transmission changed, very slightly. Almost imperceptibly, it added a new layer, a deeper frequency. One that did not carry melody, it carried presence, as if something was watching us, listening, as if the colony itself was alive inside abandoned machinery, inside growing vines, inside cracked planetary soil, remembering footsteps of children who are no longer there. The signal repeated 3 words translated from ancient Earth dialects, not spoken, not shouted, whispered. We are still here. The transmission continues even now, traveling across empty space, not calling for help, not declaring war, simply reminding the darkness that humanity has not surrendered to silence. Some researchers believe the signal is automated. I do not, because sometimes, during long observation cycles, I detect a slight variation in tempo, like someone breathing slowly while listening to distant stars. Tomorrow, our fleet will continue mapping the forgotten human frontier. But I fear what we will find deeper inside their abandoned worlds. Because if humanity can make music survive centuries without a listener, then perhaps they are not trying to speak to us. Perhaps they are waiting for something older than the Empire itself to answer. And tonight, as I record this archive, I believe I hear the colony tower singing again. Not loudly, not proudly, just repeating the old human melody into the cold abyss. As if humanity wants the universe to remember that even when they are gone, they are never truly silent. The Galactic Council did not fear human soldiers, they feared human children. This truth is recorded inside the restricted xenobiology archive under the classification term Death World Nursery. I will explain this designation slowly because many younger species misunderstand it. A death world is not merely a hostile planet. It is a world where survival itself behaves like war. Earth is not special because it is violent. Earth is special because violence is the first teacher of its young. Human children learn endurance from gravity, from hunger, from heat that burns skin like silent fire, and from predators that move faster than their hearts can react. The Tri-Star Alliance Orbital Academy was constructed to study this anomaly. From observation windows, thousands of alien scholars watched human cadets train inside simulated survival chambers. The human participants were small, deliberately small. Their species had not genetically engineered childhood warriors like some militarized civilizations. Yet the humans walked into trials designed to break stronger species. The gravity field was doubled, then tripled, then fluctuated unpredictably like unstable planetary orbit stress. Alien runners collapsed after the 4th cycle. Human children did not. They did not run faster. They simply did not stop walking. Our sports science division reported confusion. Human biomechanics should have failed under such muscular compression. But the children adjusted posture, shifted weight distribution, breathed slower, moved like living mathematics solving gravity through patience. During the Predator simulation trial, something unexpected occurred. One human child noticed an injured alien student lying beneath a cracked energy rock formation. The child was supposed to continue running. Victory required completing the course alone. Instead, the human stopped. This action generated a 0.73 probability loss in their official ranking projection. The child removed protective training gloves and helped lift the injured alien. The alien observers whispered among themselves. In our civilizations, competition justifies hierarchy. The weak exist so the strong may ascend. But human competition sometimes contains strange variables. Mercy. The child carried the injured student to medical drones before returning to the race. They lost first place, but the human did not appear distressed. Several analysts recorded micro-expression data showing satisfaction instead of regret. This disturbed the council's psychology board. Later, during debriefing interrogation, we asked the child why they sacrificed victory. The translator struggled with the response because human emotional subtext is difficult to convert. The child said, "If we all finish the race alive, the victory belongs to everyone." This statement was stored as potential ideological contagion. Military strategists warned that such thinking could destabilize hierarchical command structures. One admiral wrote in his report, "Humans may be impossible to defeat because they are willing to waste tactical advantage on survival of non-humans." Another analyst countered this conclusion. He said humans do not waste mercy, they weaponize social trust. A species that remembers kindness during competition becomes terrifying in long campaigns, because enemies cannot predict when humans will stop fighting and start helping. During night observation cycles, I studied human cadet resting behavior. They did not isolate themselves. Human children formed small circles during sleep periods, not strictly family units, more like protective micro-tribes sharing warmth and heartbeat rhythms. Biological scanners detected synchronized breathing patterns. The children unconsciously matched respiration cycles, like distributed living organisms sharing survival energy. Psychological research teams called this phenomenon collective persistence bonding. When one human child woke from simulation nightmares, another human child would place a hand on their shoulder without speaking. This confused alien medical officers. Touch was not used as a command, it was used as reassurance. The Galactic Council predicted humanity would fail future interstellar conflicts because humans allocate combat resources towards rescue operations. But I believe the Council misunderstands something fundamental. Humans are not fighting for victory. They are fighting for continuation. Victory is temporary. Continuation is eternal. During final observation of the Academy training cycle, the injured alien child approached the human who saved him. The alien child attempted to perform a formal gratitude ritual. Human customs were unclear. The human child simply smiled, then said something translated imperfectly across cultural matrices. The phrase was repeated quietly. "We run because someone else might fall behind us." The meaning frightened the military academy director, because a warrior who fights alone can be defeated, but a warrior who carries the survival of others inside their motivation cannot be stopped easily. The human child returned to training field. Dust from simulated desert storms rose around small footsteps. The child walked, not sprinted, step by step, heartbeat by heartbeat. Behind them, alien spectators felt something uncomfortable growing inside collective consciousness. Not fear, not admiration alone, something closer to existential uncertainty. If humans can make mercy into endurance strategy, then future wars may not be fought against human weapons. They may be fought against human willingness to keep others alive. Tonight, the Council has ordered new research. They wish to know whether human compassion is a weakness that can be exploited. I have read the historical combat archives. I believe they are searching for a shadow inside sunlight. But humanity has learned to walk even in shadows. And somewhere inside the orbital academy, human children continue training, breathing together in silent rhythm, moving forward. Not fastest, not strongest, only refusing to stop. And that, I fear, is how Death World children grow into something the galaxy cannot easily erase. The Imperial Throne World was built from frozen suns. Its towers were carved from compressed stellar fragments harvested during the Age of Conquest, when the Galactic Emperor first declared that civilization must kneel beneath imperial eternity. Today, the throne chamber was prepared for execution. The human diplomat stood alone.
Her wrists were bound by floating energy chains that glowed faintly blue, calibrated to suppress biological neural resistance. The Emperor believed human diplomacy was weakness disguised as intelligence. He spoke slowly, deliberately, allowing every species present to record his words. Humanity will be erased from sanctioned history. The sentence was delivered as ceremonial law. Silence filled the grand chamber. Then the woman laughed. Not loudly, not defiantly like battlefield warriors. The alien historian described the sound as ancient gravity awakening inside a human throat. The laughter carried age. Not biological age, cultural age.
Something older than the Empire's star charts. The Emperor ordered translation systems to isolate the human vocal pattern. The machines failed. The woman spoke a phrase that had not existed inside interstellar linguistics databases. The title was transmitted in fragmented myth-frequency signals. Cosmic Baba Yaga. Several council observers experienced immediate memory disruption as the phrase activated forgotten human folklore encryption. The woman was not merely a diplomat. She was something else, a guardian of human myth storage, living archive of survival stories carried inside human collective subconscious. Our scanners detected unstable probability distortion surrounding her body, not energy shields, not weapon fields, something stranger, narrative resistance signatures. The execution chamber doors unlocked themselves without authorization. Security algorithms reported conceptual permission override. The woman stepped forward. Chains dissolved into floating ash particles. The Emperor remained seated. He believed fear was a biological reaction. He did not yet understand human folklore. The woman spoke quietly. Emperors die when they believe silence belongs to them. Her voice contained something that made armored guards shift their stance unconsciously. The woman continued walking toward the throne. No weapon systems activated, no defense drones responded. Some palace engineers later reported that their machines simply refused to fire, as if mechanical intelligence itself was uncertain about harming her. The woman stopped 10 steps from the Emperor. Leaning slightly forward, she whispered, "Humans do not fear death. We learn from it." The Emperor attempted to initiate execution protocol. His command interface froze. The throne chamber lighting shifted subtly toward twilight spectrum. Historical records indicate this was not caused by technology malfunction. It was psychological atmosphere adaptation triggered by unknown source. The Emperor's personal guard began experiencing auditory hallucinations. They reported hearing children walking slowly inside their combat helmets. Soft footsteps, patient footsteps, like someone exploring inside metal skulls searching for forgotten memories. One guard dropped his weapon, then another. Within minutes, 12 Imperial protectors abandoned their posts without violence. Later interrogation archives state their shared explanation was identical. "We felt like we were standing inside someone's childhood." The woman reached the throne steps. The Emperor finally spoke. "What are you?" She smiled. The smile was not young. It carried grandmotherly patience shaped by cosmic winters. "I am the story that survives after your empire forgets why it was built." She placed one hand gently on the throne platform. The ancient imperial power crystal beneath the seat flickered uncertainly. The woman whispered something recorded only in encrypted myth language fragments. No translator could decode it, but several alien psychologists hypothesized it was a protective invocation ritual from early human wilderness cultures. The meaning was believed to be, "Let those who walk after us still find fire in darkness." The Emperor felt something impossible. For the first time since his coronation, he experienced uncertainty about eternity. Humanity's power, the narrator writes, is not technological superiority. It is narrative immortality. Empires collapse when they are forgotten, but humans teach stories to children before they teach children fear, and stories survive wars. The Emperor ordered final execution authorization, but the system responded with one message: target entity classified as historical continuity organism, destruction probability equals paradoxical.
The woman turned slightly before leaving the chamber. Her final words were carried softly across the throne world communication network. Do not fight humans like you fight armies. Fight us if you can, but remember this. Human children will keep telling our stories even when we are dust. She walked away. Energy chains dissolved completely. The throne chamber doors opened again without command. After that day, several imperial worlds reported seeing silhouettes of old women standing silently at city intersections during night cycles. No one could confirm if they were human, but children reported feeling safe when they saw them. The Galactic Emperor never spoke publicly about the execution failure. However, Imperial archives later recorded that his personal guard requested retirement transfers, citing psychological disturbances. The official explanation was military fatigue. Unofficially, historians believe something inside the Empire began questioning obedience. Because humans do not always conquer by weapons. Sometimes they conquer by making the universe remember stories that refuse to die. And somewhere beyond the throne world, the woman who was called Cosmic Baba Yaga continued walking. Not as warrior, not as diplomat, but as the guardian of humanity's oldest survival dream. Waiting, listening, for the next empire that forgets that stories are sometimes stronger than stars. The Battle of Silent Orbits was not remembered for destruction. It was remembered for interruption. 3 Imperial fleets were executing planetary bombardment protocols against the rebellious mining world of Hethra 9 when the human civilian fleet arrived. They did not fire weapons. They opened communication corridors. Human ships moved between warring vessels like parents separating fighting children. Emergency rescue drones deployed from human transports without requesting identification clearance. Our strategic commanders were confused. Civilian vessels entering active combat zones was statistically suicidal. Yet the humans risked planetary infrastructure collapse simply to save damaged enemy survivors drifting inside wrecked starships. Several alien admirals recorded this behavior as resource misallocation, but I believe they were studying human psychology through wrong mathematical assumptions. The Galactic Council convened emergency doctrine analysis. The central chamber projection showed human fleet behavior across multiple battles. Human civilians consistently prioritized rescue over victory. Why would a species preserve enemies? The answer emerged during interrogation of a captured human officer. He was wounded but cooperative. Our translators struggled with emotional nuance inside his speech. The council asked him why humans fight wars they cannot win. The human officer did not hesitate. Because losing while standing is better than surviving while kneeling. The chamber fell silent. The phrase was transmitted across interstellar communication networks within hours, not as propaganda, but as philosophical virus. Younger alien populations began repeating it during civilian gatherings. Some species considered the idea dangerous because it redefined survival. Most civilizations teach that survival means avoiding death. Human doctrine suggests survival means preserving dignity during death. Military intelligence archives recorded unusual social effects. Civilian unrest appeared in several non-human planetary societies. Young aliens questioned hierarchical leadership structures. They asked why empires demanded obedience rather than safety. The Galactic Council's sociological division reported the emergence of what they called humanity mimetic behavior risk. This was not invasion. Humans were not sending armies. They were sending ideas, and ideas were entering alien minds without permission. Reputation persistence was identified as humanity's primary psychological weapon. Humans remember kindness across generations. They build stories about heroes who saved strangers.
Children are taught the names of ancestors who resisted injustice. But humans also remember betrayal. Centuries can pass. Star systems can change ownership. Empires can rise and fall. But human historical archives preserve both mercy and violence inside collective memory. This creates something terrifying for strategic planners: predictable retaliation cycles. If you hurt humans, they may respond. If you help humans, they may protect you. Neutrality is unstable around humans because their society assigns moral meaning to survival interactions. During council observation, we interviewed several alien youth groups. They expressed fascination with human cadets training inside orbital academies. They spoke about humans walking slowly during races to help weaker participants finish. They called it beautiful courage. Military analysts realized the danger too late. Humans were not conquering territory, they were conquering behavioral imagination. Non-human species were beginning to visualize themselves acting like humans during ethical crises. An admiral from the Lyris Dominion resigned after stating, "I cannot command soldiers who now ask whether the enemy is hungry before shooting." The council understood something horrifying. War doctrine collapses when soldiers believe the enemy could become a friend. Humanity's expansion strategy was not territorial, it was psychological symmetry propagation. Make others imagine themselves as human. Make mercy feel stronger than domination. The Battle of Silent Orbits ended when 3 opposing fleets simultaneously initiated rescue operations. No order was given, no treaty was signed. Ships simply stopped firing. They started saving. The mining world of Hethra 9 survived. Human ships left first. They broadcast one message: someday you may need help too. The Council classified the transmission as non-military influence vector, but I disagree with that classification, because influence is not always coercion. Sometimes influence is empathy moving across species boundaries. After the battle, several alien children were observed playing rescue simulation games. They pretended to be human doctors saving imaginary enemies. Psychologists noted this as early-stage cultural assimilation. Political advisors called it ideological contamination. I call it something more dangerous: evolution of compassion. The Council finally understood humanity's power. Humans do not win wars by destroying enemies. They win by making enemies doubt whether they want to remain enemies. Inside silent observation chambers, senior strategists reviewed Earth historical records. They discovered human stories where defeated warriors were honored by their opponents, where enemies shared food after battle, where children were taught that strength without kindness becomes empty noise. The Council chairman asked one final question: how do we stop humans? No one answered, because the data showed something disturbing. The more species encountered humans, the more they began thinking like humans, not technologically, behaviorally. And that was how humanity spread, not as conquerors, but as mirrors, reflecting survival with compassion. Tonight, our archives contain a warning. If humanity continues interacting with the galaxy, then future wars may not be fought between species. They may be fought inside the idea of what it means to survive. And I fear that when young civilizations look at the stars, they will not see empires. They will see children running across cosmic fields, helping each other finish the race. The first detection occurred at the edge of neutral void territory. Our long-range surveillance arrays registered a vessel. Human design architecture. Impossible. Official military records confirmed that humanity had no authorized fleet operating inside Sector N7, the region where 3 rival imperial forces were preparing territorial conflict. The ship was silent, not stealthy, silent in a way that suggested it did not consider detection worth resisting. The Tactical Command Center classified the object as potential trap formation. Veteran alien pilots felt something else: fear. Not of weapons, but of intention. The ship transmitted one message, only one: we are not lost, we are waiting. The communication frequency carried unusual harmonic modulation. Our acoustic analysts discovered the signal contained layered gravitational oscillation patterns matching ancient Earth childhood lullabies. The effect on biological crew members was disturbing. Several soldiers reported hearing their childhood names spoken softly inside their native linguistic structures, not through communication systems, but directly inside cognitive perception fields. Psychological defense teams attempted sensory isolation. Results were inconsistent. Human ship behavior remained unchanged. It did not approach the war fleets. It positioned itself slowly between the 3 approaching armadas, like a parent separating fighting children with quiet authority. The vessel emitted low-frequency gravitational harmonics, not as warning,
but as stabilizing resonance. Navigation officers later reported that their combat instincts weakened near the signal source. Aggression response cycles slowed. The three Imperial fleets began independent communication attempts. None received response. The human ship simply remained there, floating, patient, like something older than military doctrine. Tactical advisors argued whether the vessel was reconnaissance, diplomatic platform, or psychological warfare device. I believe it was something stranger: protection. After 47 standard orbital cycles, the First Fleet initiated withdrawal procedures. Not publicly. Their internal logs later revealed concern regarding civilian evacuation safety inside forward assault corridors. The Second Fleet followed. Command officers cited structural risk to supply convoys. The Third Fleet hesitated longest. Their war doctrine emphasized honor combat, yet several junior pilots reported hearing children crying inside cockpit environmental interfaces. One commander later stated privately, "I felt like someone was watching us decide whether to hurt strangers." No weapons were fired. No treaty was signed. Ships simply stopped firing. They started saving. The mining world of Hethra 9 survived. Human ships left first. They broadcast one message: someday you may need help too. The Council classified the transmission as non-military influence vector, but I disagree with that classification, because influence is not always coercion. Sometimes influence is empathy moving across species boundaries. After the battle, several alien children were observed playing rescue simulation games. They pretended to be human doctors saving imaginary enemies. Psychologists noted this as early-stage cultural assimilation. Political advisors called it ideological contamination. I call it something more dangerous: evolution of compassion. The Council finally understood humanity's power. Humans do not win wars by destroying enemies. They win by making enemies doubt whether they want to remain enemies. Inside silent observation chambers, senior strategists reviewed Earth historical records. They discovered human stories where defeated warriors were honored by their opponents, where enemies shared food after battle, where children were taught that strength without kindness becomes empty noise. The Council chairman asked one final question: how do we stop humans? No one answered, because the data showed something disturbing. The more species encountered humans, the more they began thinking like humans. Not technologically, behaviorally. And that was how humanity spread, not as conquerors, but as mirrors, reflecting survival with compassion. Tonight, our archives contain a warning. If humanity continues interacting with the galaxy, then future wars may not be fought between species. They may be fought inside the idea of what it means to survive. And I fear that when young civilizations look at the stars, they will not see empires. They will see children running across cosmic fields, helping each other finish the race. The first detection occurred at the edge of neutral void territory. Our long-range surveillance arrays registered a vessel. Human design architecture. Impossible. Official military records confirmed that humanity had no authorized fleet operating inside Sector N7, the region where three rival Imperial forces were preparing territorial conflict. The ship was silent, not stealthy, silent in a way that suggested it did not consider detection worth resisting. The Tactical Command Center classified the object as potential trap formation. Veteran alien pilots felt something else: fear. Not of weapons, but of intention. The ship transmitted one message, only one: we are not lost, we are waiting. The communication frequency carried unusual harmonic modulation. Our acoustic analysts discovered the signal contained layered gravitational oscillation patterns matching ancient Earth childhood lullabies. The effect on biological crew members was disturbing. Several soldiers reported hearing their childhood names spoken softly inside their native linguistic structures, not through communication systems, but directly inside cognitive perception fields. Psychological defense teams attempted sensory isolation. Results were inconsistent. Human ship behavior remained unchanged. It did not approach the war fleets. It positioned itself slowly between the three approaching armadas, like a parent separating.
This was not conventional warfare intelligence. This was universal risk reduction engineering. After transmission, the human ship altered its emission spectrum. Its physical signature began fading like morning mist dissolving under planetary sunlight. Several sensors attempted to track final position. Results showed probability dispersion rather than mechanical propulsion. The vessel did not fly away, it simply became harder to observe, as if existence itself was loosening its hold on the structure of the ship. Before complete disappearance, one last signal reached our archives. The same words: "We are not lost, we are waiting." Some scholars interpret this as human strategic patience doctrine. Military theorists believe the ship may represent hidden human fleet reserves. But I do not agree, because during the final observation cycle, I felt something inside the listening chamber. Not fear, not analysis, something closer to nostalgia. Veteran starship pilots later confessed they felt the same sensation, like remembering childhood homes that no longer exist. The Galactic Council issued advisory warning: human ships may not fight to destroy enemies. They may exist to remind enemies they are allowed to survive. 3 war fleets returned to their home systems. No victory announcement was broadcast, no defeat declared. Civilian populations celebrated quietly, because no cities burned that cycle. Inside the archives, I record one conclusion: humanity does not always appear to wage war. Sometimes humanity appears simply to stand between danger and innocence. Patient, silent, waiting. Not for battle, but for the moment when others decide they do not want war anymore. And somewhere in the void beyond neutral space, the human ship may still be listening, or waiting, for those who are ready to stop fighting. The Tournament of Broken Warriors was not announced as a battle event. It was advertised as a cultural exchange of martial traditions. But every species knew the truth. It was a test. The multi-species arena floated inside artificial gravity rings orbiting the moon of Zyra Prime. Alien champions arrived wearing genetic combat enhancements, energy muscle lattice armor, and neural aggression amplifiers. Human participants arrived differently. They were older. Their skin carried scars that medical reconstruction had chosen not to erase. Their bodies were not engineered for perfect combat efficiency, only for survival continuity. The Council expected humiliation. Human veterans were statistically weaker in raw strength, reaction speed, and kinetic strike output. But humans fought differently. They did not rush. They observed breathing rhythm. They moved defensively, exhausting opponents by maintaining unbreakable positional stability, like mountains that cannot be defeated by storm, only slowly worn by time. The first alien champion collapsed after 17 minutes, not from injury, from endurance fatigue. The human veteran did not deliver finishing strikes. Instead, he offered the defeated warrior assistance standing up. The crowd reaction was confusion. In most civilizations, victory requires visible dominance display. Humans treated victory as successful continuation of life. The second and third matches followed similar patterns. Human veterans absorbed attacks, redirected momentum, and allowed opponents to tire themselves. Medical observers recorded unusual physiological responses inside human fighters. Heart rates stabilized during danger rather than accelerating. Psychologists classified this as controlled survival calm. During the final tournament phase, something unexpected occurred. A disabled alien boy watched from medical quarantine observation windows. He belonged to a species known for high neural sensitivity. The child had lost mobility after a training accident. One human veteran noticed him. The veteran was approximately 60 Earth years old. His combat uniform was simple: no ceremonial armor, no royal insignia, only an old military badge attached near the chest. The veteran exited the arena, walked slowly toward medical quarantine barriers. Security drones hesitated, not because of threat detection failure, but because human movement pattern was classified as non-hostile approach protocol. The veteran removed his combat badge. The metal surface reflected medical chamber lights. He entered the child observation room. Several alien medical officers attempted to intervene, but stopped. The veteran crouched beside the child, did not speak immediately. Humans often communicate respect before words. After several seconds, he placed the combat badge into the child's small hand. The narrator records this moment as the most dangerous human ritual, symbolic survival authority transfer. Among human warrior cultures, giving a badge means passing responsibility for memory of battle. It is not ownership, it is guardianship. The veteran spoke softly. Someday, you may need to stand up when others cannot. The child did not fully understand language translation, but emotional intent transmission succeeded. The child held the badge carefully, as if it contained something alive. Arena spectators witnessed several unusual reactions. Young alien viewers began requesting permission to watch human veterans train, not as entertainment, but as educational experience. Within months, multiple species arranged educational pilgrimage visits to human training zones. Their children sat quietly behind safety barriers, observing human soldiers exercise. Human soldiers did not perform intimidation demonstrations. They practiced controlled movement.
Breathing discipline. Defensive stance repetition. Several alien sociologists documented emergence of new cultural admiration patterns. Military intelligence agencies attempted to analyze human tournament strategy. Their conclusion was disturbing. Humans were not trying to win tournaments. They were trying to normalize survival without humiliation. Because a defeated enemy who feels respected is less likely to return as permanent hatred. During closing ceremony, the human veteran returned to arena center. He bowed slightly, not to the crowd, but to the opponents he had defeated. The Galactic Tournament Council declared joint championship recognition. No single species was declared superior. Afterward, several alien civilizations sent messages requesting human instructors for youth resilience training. Human command authorities agreed under one condition: no child would be trained for war without learning how to help someone stand up after falling. The veteran tournament became known across the galaxy as the Gathering of Broken Warriors, because humans proved something terrifying to strategic doctrine. Strength is not always measured by how hard one strikes. Sometimes it is measured by how gently one allows another to survive defeat. And now, young alien children visit human veterans during quiet training hours, watching, learning, waiting. Across the galaxy, intelligence agencies arrived at the same conclusion independently. Human cadets were not trained to win wars. They were trained to survive failure. More precisely, they were trained to survive impossible failure. The Tri-System Intelligence Alliance compiled simulation results from 47 species military academies. The statistical anomaly was consistent. When presented with life-or-death tactical scenarios, human cadets frequently chose actions that reduced total survival risk across group members, even when personal survival probability dropped below 20%. In one documented training program, human soldiers were given a choice: escape the collapsing orbital station alone, or attempt rescue of trapped Allied trainees. Strategic AI projections marked rescue attempts as operationally irrational. Human cadets selected rescue every time, even when simulation advisors warned them of guaranteed casualty outcomes. The Alien Research Division attempted to replicate human training methodology. They modified their academy programs. They introduced endurance hardship drills, psychological pressure conditioning, combat unpredictability stress cycles. Performance metrics improved slightly, but something was missing. Human instructors explained the missing variable using a phrase that became widely studied. This statement caused controversy in several militarized civilizations, because it implied that pure combat optimization leads to moral decay. Human training philosophy focused on three simultaneous objectives: survival under extreme conditions,
Maintenance of cooperative identity, preservation of non-combatant value recognition. Death World cadets were taught that survival does not justify cruelty. During classified observation of Earth Orbital Academy systems, alien intelligence agents recorded unusual classroom behavior. Human instructors often asked cadets hypothetical ethical questions during combat drills. Example: if you can win a war by abandoning a wounded teammate, should you?
Correct answer scoring systems did not reward simple victory, they rewarded survival integrity. Human cadets were trained to operate inside catastrophic probability environments. They practiced decision-making when outcomes were uncertain, not when outcomes were optimal, because war, according to human doctrine, rarely produces optimal conditions. Several alien academies attempted to integrate this concept. They added empathy simulation modules. They introduced civilian rescue prioritization algorithms. Initial results were promising. However, strategic commanders later reported something unexpected. Their soldiers became more hesitant to execute aggressive expansion orders. Political leadership labeled the phenomenon operational inefficiency. Youth populations inside several alien civilizations began questioning military propaganda narratives. They asked why enemies were always described as monsters. Human cadet training emphasized understanding enemy motivation patterns, not to forgive, but to predict, because understanding does not necessarily mean alliance. It means control of uncertainty. During Interstellar Defense Symposium, a captured human training lecture was analyzed. The instructor spoke about death world psychology. Human children grow up observing environmental unpredictability, storms that arrive suddenly, predators that hunt quietly, natural disasters that cannot be negotiated with. Therefore, human survival learning emphasizes flexible resilience, not rigid domination. Alien war academies began copying human cadet training patterns. In these simulations, students were forced to continue mission objectives after catastrophic loss events. However, results were incomplete. Students trained this way showed increased operational endurance, but also showed reduced willingness to abandon injured allies. Military strategists were divided. Some considered this weakness, others feared it was strategic superiority, because soldiers who refuse to leave comrades behind are difficult to psychologically break. Human instructors warned alien academies about a hidden danger. If empathy is taught without survival discipline, soldiers may become passive. If survival is taught without empathy, soldiers become efficient predators. Balance was essential. The Galactic Council attempted to mathematically model human cadet effectiveness. The equations failed to stabilize. Human behavior introduced recursive moral variables. A soldier might sacrifice mission success to save one child.
That child might later become a scientist, preventing future wars. Causal prediction models could not easily capture such chains. Across multiple civilizations, young populations began admiring Death World cadet philosophy. Parents allowed children to watch human training archives. They were particularly fascinated by scenes where exhausted human cadets helped each other stand after falling during endurance trials. Human military archives show a recurring ritual. When one cadet collapses, another helps them rise before instructors intervene. This ritual is not officially required. It is culturally reinforced. Alien observers called it survival compassion bonding. The Council fears the long-term effect, because civilizations that value both survival and empathy may become politically unpredictable. They may refuse wars that demand innocent sacrifice. Or worse, they may fight wars differently, not to destroy enemies, but to ensure enemies can also survive the future. And as I close this archive entry, I record one final observation. Death World cadets are not trained to be the strongest warriors. They are trained to be the last ones still willing to stand beside someone who is weaker, even when the universe tells them to walk away. Because humans believe survival is not victory. Survival is responsibility carried forward. And somewhere inside the training stars, young cadets continue learning how to breathe slowly inside chaos, how to move forward when fear speaks loudly, and how to protect life, even when life itself is trying to end. I have spent 12 stellar cycles studying humanity. Now I understand something that terrifies every Strategic Intelligence Council in recorded galactic history. Humanity does not wish to rule the galaxy. Humans wish the galaxy to survive itself. The final observation site was the abandoned war moon of Tarsus Delta. Once it was a planetary annihilation platform built by the old empire of Iron Suns. Now it is a garden habitat. Human terraforming engineers removed weapon cores and replaced them with soil layers imported from multiple biological worlds. Trees grew inside shattered command towers. Water flowed slowly across broken war steel. Children played where artillery once aimed at cities, human and alien children together. Their laughter moved softly across artificial gravity fields like small living echoes of ancient peace. There were no victory monuments, no surrender declarations, no empire banners, only green vines climbing destroyed military structures, as if nature itself had decided war was unnecessary decoration. I watched 2 children race across the garden path, one human child, one child from the Catherine star system. They were not competing. They were pretending to be explorers searching for imaginary creatures inside flower clusters. When one child fell, the other helped them stand, without speaking. This behavior appears frequently inside human social observation archives.
Humans teach cooperation before they teach dominance. No empire officially declared victory after the Great Interstellar Tension Period, because humanity did not conquer territory. They changed expectation patterns. The narrator's conclusion is simple but disturbing. Humans are dangerous not because they are strong. They are dangerous because other species feel safer thinking like humans. When young alien populations imagine themselves helping strangers during crisis simulations, when soldiers hesitate before firing because they wonder if the target has children, when political leaders consider civilian survival before expansion, human influence is present, not as invasion, but as psychological transformation. Several council historians asked whether humanity intentionally spread such behavioral patterns. I believe the answer is irrelevant, because humans do not need to consciously engineer influence for it to occur. Their social structure naturally promotes it. At the center of the garden moon, a communication tower remains active. It is not military. It is historical preservation equipment. Today, a transmission arrived from Earth. The signal was weak, age filtered by distance, but clear. The message was repeated across civilian and diplomatic channels of every registered species. 4 sentences. Simple. Unarmed. Human. No threats. No demands. No strategic positioning. Only shared survival promise. After transmission, several alien observers reported emotional instability during recording review. Not fear. Not sadness alone. Something closer to collective nostalgia for a future that had not yet happened. The children on the war moon continued playing. Sometimes they pretended to be explorers. Sometimes they pretended to be rescue pilots searching for friends inside imaginary storms. The human children spoke softly about stars being homes for stories that have not yet been written. The alien children listened. Because human children speak as if the universe is still growing. Not finished. Not conquered. Growing. Night cycles on the garden moon are quiet. No war engines hum beneath the soil. Only wind passing through leaves grown from forgotten battlefield fragments. The Galactic Council closed several military expansion programs after studying human behavioral models. Official explanation. Strategic stability. Unofficial explanation. Fear of becoming something humanity would help survive, but not fear. Humanity's greatest weapon may not be technology. It may be the belief that even enemies deserve a future. The archive records end here. But I suspect the story of humanity does not end. Because I have noticed something inside younger alien civilizations. They are beginning to teach their children how to stand up after falling. They are beginning to ask whether victory is worth losing compassion. And sometimes, when star winds pass through abandoned war zones, I hear children laughing. Human children. Alien children.
I do not know if humanity planted those memories deliberately, but I know this: the galaxy is quieter now, not because war ended, but because many species are learning how to smile without preparing to bite. And perhaps that is the most dangerous truth about humans. They do not ask the universe to obey. They ask the universe to remember how to live.